Oh, yeah, pipe smokers. It's Paul the Pipe Guy here. Yep. Live from the outskirts of Rochester, New York, in the United States of America. Thank the Lord. So, we have our Tuesday night smoke together. It's the 25th of February already, and we've got daylight savings time right around the corner. Great, they're going to make it dark again for me in the morning. Anyways, so let's have a Tuesday night smoke together. So grab your favorite pipe, grab your favorite blend, and grab your favorite beverage. Let's have a great smoke together. We've got a real good talk. There's something that I want to share personally about myself that maybe can be a learning experience for others. I've already learned it before. I'll tell you all about it. We'll be back in a nanosecond. Alrighty, so for our Tuesday night smoke together, I have my beautiful Savinelli 1997, I'm sorry, Stanwell 1997 Pipe of the Year. I bought this. I got a great deal on it. I cleaned it up. It's like brand new. And she smokes phenomenal. It has a straight grain. And whether you know this or not, depending on what your briar is, the straight grain briar pipes, not the ones with all the eyeballs and stuff in them, the straight grain ones, they actually smoke better because they smoke cooler. It's like with Algerian briar. Algerian briar is a straight, super tight grain briar, and it smokes cool and wonderful. And that's I don't know if this is probably I don't know if this is Algerian briar or not, but it's straight grain. It's got a little flame grain in there. It's beautiful though. That's a gorgeous pipe that I rescued, man. A Stanwell 1997 Pipe of the Year. And in it, I've got some Black Irish Twist. I just couldn't help myself. I love this stuff. It smells just like a barbecue. It smells like somebody searing a steak over charcoal. That's what it smells like. Let's set it on fire. Now, if you have any of these Cat, what the hell? If you've got any of these rope twists, you do want to cut them up, rub them out, and let them dry for a little while, 15 minutes. Man, that smells like I just took into my mouth a whole mouthful of smoke from like a hickory fired grill. Mm. And it is good. Oh my gosh, I love this Black Irish Twist. I like it better than the Brown Irish Twist, and I like it better than the Rum Irish Twist just because of it just tastes and smells just like a barbecue. Oh man, this is so good. if you like a really smoky, barbecuey flavor, just try ordering 1 ounce of Black Irish Twist, all right? Comes in a rope form. It's hard to see in there. It looks like a little dog turd. All right? And then you just slice off an 1/8 inch medallion. You place that medallion flat and you just like dice it up. Then you rub it out and then you let it sit there for about 15 minutes. So you don't have to keep relighting your pipe. And man, this Stanwell, I am so blessed to have that Stanwell. That's my 3rd favorite pipe that I own. I love this pipe. And I haven't smoked her in a long time. She's mad at me. So let's talk about what happened at work today. It was an experience that I've experienced before, but I want to share it with you. I'm sure you've all experienced it too. So around 2 o'clock this afternoon, I got a Busch beer too, by the way. Cheers. Around 2 o'clock this afternoon, I'm not at my workstation. I'm up talking to a fellow team member. We have about 6 people on the team that we have. We produce a product for a medical company. Basically what it is, it's 4 oval pieces of stainless steel, sheet metal, and they telescope up and down. And what it is, it's a cover for an operating table motor. And they're a long-time customer. So we just went to another order, which means we have to prep everything up before we can start shipping. There's certain things I won't get into. It doesn't matter. So when you complete one order, well, the whole chain of events that it takes to get that product finished and in the box has to be started all over again. So the guy has to spout weld this, the other guy has to bend this, and the other guy has to do this, and the other guy has to do that, and then I have to polish it, and then it goes up for final assembly, and then they're shipped. So when you stop an old job and start a new job, you have to fill that pipeline of parts up again. So my boss, my plant manager, around 2 o'clock, I'm up talking to one of the other employees, seeing if we're going to be able to ship our first shipment for the new order out tomorrow. And he comes up and he's like, "Hey, Paul." He says, "Oh, hey, Chuck, how's it going?" He's like, "I need to talk to you for a second. Come with me." And I was like, "Oh, this doesn't sound like a review where I'm going to get a raise." So he was very respectful. I followed him into his office and he's like, "Have a seat, please." Kind of knew now what he was going to talk to me about. And he's like, "Last couple weeks, every time I go back in your work area, I see you on your phone." And he says, which means that, he says, I I've got this company all over my back to get shipments out. He said, you're my only polisher and you're good at what you do. He says, I got to get these shipments out. They're all over me. He's like, he says, every time I see you, you're on your phone. Which means that you're probably on your phone half the workday. And I looked at him and I says, you know what? You're 100% right, Chuck. I said, that's gotten out of control. So effective immediately, I'll change that and you won't have a problem with me on my phone anymore. And he's like, thank you. He says, that's what I wanted to hear. I said, yes, sir. He says, all right, go on back to work. Now, he could have written me up. But he didn't. He was very respectful. And, you know, to write somebody up without giving them a warning really is not the right way to manage people, because if you just start writing people up left and right, you know, they get a bad attitude. And me, I knew I was wrong. So why even argue the point? I didn't try to argue the point. I didn't try to explain to him why I was on my phone. None of that would have any bearing on anything. I just admitted to it. I says, you know what? And I told him, I says, you know what? You're right. You're absolutely right. And I'll change that effective immediately. We won't have any problem with that anymore. And he's getting all the pressure from above, you know. So, but for him to respectfully call me into his office and say, you know, I'm noticing a situation developing here, you know. He didn't ask me to change it. I just voluntarily said, you know what, you're right. I'll change it. Effective immediately. A lot of younger people, you know, there's no sense in trying to even explain your way out of something if you're wrong. If you're wrong, you're wrong. And I think that by just coming straight forward when you're accused of something that you are wrong of, that you know you are wrong of, it's better to just admit it, acknowledge it, and say that you're going to change it. Management nowadays has it very tough because the workforce, it's hard to get good workers. And, you know, some of these kids would have just been like, well, everybody else is on their phone, walking around, doing this, doing that, come up with all kinds of excuses, you know. But I'm a mature male adult. And I think my boss handled it very, very, very well. So, for the rest of the day, I didn't even look at my phone. And he even told me, he says, look, I understand if you got an emergency phone call, or you have to make even just, you know, an important phone call, that's okay. He says, I'm totally good with that. When my brothers and I and my sister were growing up, if our parents called us on the carpet, you old younger people don't know what called on the carpet means. You older people do. That means when your parents are like, we need to talk. When we were kids, if we knew that we were wrong, there was no sense in even trying to barter or talk your way out of something that you got busted for by your parents or called out on. You might as well just admit to it, accept any punishment that's due, and tell them you'll change. That's one of the great things my parents taught me as a young man and a child growing up. But these young kids don't get that. They live in their parents' basement till they're 40 years old or more. No responsibility. Oh, man. This Black Irish Twist, I got a good cadence going. I'm not smoking it like a train, and it is good. If you can find Black Irish Twist and you like smoky barbecue flavor with a high nicotine content, buy it. That's my advice to you. Yeah. Oh, man, I love this Black Irish Twist. So don't be afraid to admit that you were wrong. There's nothing wrong with admitting that you were wrong if you know you were wrong. And that's one of the problems with women that we won't touch on in this video. So, shortly afterwards, my team leader comes back. He's my direct supervisor. And I said, I got called into the office, and I shared with him what I just shared with you guys. And he's like, well, that makes you a better man. You admitted that you were doing something wrong. You said you'd rectify it immediately. He says, we got another guy on this team. He's about ready to get called into the office for wandering around, working only half a day. I mean, I'm not trying to minimize what I was doing on my phone. I'd work like 15, 20 minutes and then spend 5 minutes on my phone. And that's the wrong thing to do. My employer's paying me a decent wage to do my job. So I says, what other guy are you talking about? And he's like, well, Mr. Grumpy, who's been here 24 years, wanders all over. They're going to pull him in the office. They're going to talk to him. And it definitely won't go the way that your conversation went, because he's going to argue. He's going to say everybody else walks around. He's going to get pissed off, So, well, that's between him and the company. I did he's like, you know what, Paul? He says, I do have a lot of respect for you. You did the right thing. You were honest. You admitted that you were wrong. And you said that you would change it and fix it immediately. That goes a long ways with the big bosses because they got a lot of pressures you don't even know about. All right. I've been a big boss before. If you're one of those employees that all of a sudden you find yourself one of the only guys that can do a certain task, and you think that you can screw off because you are so valuable, and you think that you can hold your employer hostage because you're the only guy that can do this that's currently there. You're holding all the cards. You can call the shots. Well, guess what? They don't forget about things like that. And there will come a time when they have 2 or 3 other people that can do your job. And all of a sudden, well, that deck of cards that you had in your hand, all right, is going to turn against you. You won't have the upper hand anymore. And it could cost you your job. They don't forget about things like that. Employers do not want to be held hostage. And I've seen plenty of people where we were short on welders, and then all these young kids were like, oh, wow, we're really short on welders and we have a ton of work. We're going to go demand a lot higher wage. And they did. They held the company hostage. They said they would leave. The company couldn't afford to lose anybody. And they held the company hostage to get more money. And that's wrong. That's wrong. Be a man. Go ask what you're worth. Tell them you want what you're worth. You don't hold the company hostage. Well, guess what? All of a sudden, they hired a few more welders. Those 2 or 3 welders that held the company hostage to get that extra, they held them up for $5 an hour. Well, those guys were gone. It's not right to hold somebody hostage. And I've been on the receiving end of that. I had a crew one time. We had like 5 jobs scheduled for that day, concrete jobs. And they said, nah, we want like $5 an hour more. This was a long time ago. And that was a lot of money to ask for. Otherwise, we're not working today. And that would have cost us thousands. So we had to barter and negotiate with them. As an employer, I know how that feels. And it sucked. And it's not right. Definitely not right for someone to do. I would never hold my employer hostage because I know if I way overprice myself because they don't have anybody that can do what I can do, I know eventually things are going to turn around. They're going to train somebody to do what I do. And then I'm going to be... So ask what you are worth. Not what you think that you should have. Not that what you want. You can't go in and ask for $40 an hour when you're only worth $20. All right? Anyways, that's our smoke together for tonight. I'm Paul the Pipe Guy. Over and out. And happy pipe smoking.